Yay.
This conference will now be recorded.
So Kayla Williams is supposed to be remote.
Yeah, and
Oh,
public
I
is,
thought that was Karen.
Karen not actually on
I don't think so.
that? Okay, so Kayla's gonna go with it?
It looked like it, sounded like it.
Okay, cool.
Take his medication. Non-medical. Like he sends him my son. I'd burn him in his life. Yeah. Grass. Purchasing. Today, you mean?
Oh, yeah, I've got James down here. There's a pen in there, too.
Oh.
They lost the first one, but they did it themselves. I didn't know. Fifth or sixth inning. I thought they were going to go 7. But they changed it back to 9. But yeah, and then even on night games, they brought that kid up to pitch for us last year. He threw 9 or 10 strikeouts. I mean, on top of it, he still left him in. They brought the reliever in. Get it better. I think it's good.
Okay.
Quit talking.
7 o'clock, I'd like to call the May 19th DeSoto City Council meeting to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Murdoch. Here. Daniels.
Here.
Automatic.
Here.
Ritter.
Yes, here.
Lane.
Here.
All are present.
Okay. I would invite you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our first item tonight on the agenda is a proclamation. Tonight we are proclaiming Mark 50 Forward Day for the Mid-America Regional Council. Whereas for a half a century, local governments in the Kansas City region have come together through the Mid-America Regional Council, Mark to partner on regional initiatives and to develop innovative solutions. And whereas the region consists of 9 counties and 119 cities which benefit from working across boundaries on a wide variety of issues and coordinating with diverse disciplines and sectors, including cities, counties, nonprofit organizations, educational systems, and special districts. And whereas Mark is an organization that promotes regional cooperation through leadership, planning, and action, and is guided by the core values of innovation, collaboration, diversity, inclusion, and service leadership. And whereas the City of DeSoto has participated and benefited from working across boundaries, allowing us to better serve residents by sharing local government services and knowledge. Now therefore be it resolved, members of the DeSoto City Council celebrate the work it's accomplished over the past 50 years and dedicate June 10th, 2022, the day of Mark's annual regional assembly, as Mark 50 Forward Day, in recognition of the enormous progress the region will continue to make over the next 5 decades. And be it further resolved, I, Mayor Rick Walker, do hereby proclaim June 10th, 2022 as Mark 50 Forward Day in DeSoto, Kansas, and urge local leaders and community members to reflect on the great progress made in the past 50 years and join us in welcoming a future built on strong regional collaboration, connections, relationships, and accomplishments. Proclaimed by the Mayor of DeSoto on the 19th day of May, 2022. Okay, do you want me to, or I guess we already gave you the proclamation.
I have a copy. Thank you all for taking time to do this and for your engagement with Mark. We are all the cities and counties, and the work that we do wouldn't be possible without you all. We appreciate Mayor Walker's service on our board.
Yes, happy to do it. And on behalf of the city, I would like to express our congratulations, extend our congratulations on 50 years of Mark.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the regional assembly this year.
Very good. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, our next item is a public hearing to consider 2023 CDBG. That just didn't sound right, 2020.
It doesn't roll off the tongue, does it?
It did not. CDBG project. So officially, we will just open the public hearing, take comment from anyone, and then close the hearing.
Yes, council, we do have the action item on under new business.
Okay.
So we could have a brief introduction from Brad to discuss what we discussed last time now, or we could do that during the new business item, if you wish.
I don't really see anybody here to discuss it, so I'm going to officially open the public hearing. Does anyone wish to address the council regarding the 2023 CDBG project? All right, seeing none, I'm going to officially close the public hearing and we'll go on with our agenda and we'll take this up later. Item 1 is our consent agenda, approval of the minutes from our council meeting of May 5th, approval of pay ordinance number 926, and approve ordinance 2537, amending mobile food vendor regulations. Anyone would wish to remove from the consent agenda or a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item 2, call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not listed on tonight's agenda. The comments that are discussed under call to public may or may not be acted on by the council during this meeting. Does anyone wish to address the council under call to public? Mike, is there anyone online that might wish to do?
No, sir, there's not.
Okay. We'll move on. Item 3 is old business, which we have none, so we'll go to item 4A, receive 2021 fiscal audit. Are we expecting someone from?
We do, Mr. Mayor. Kayla Williams from our auditing service is online, and she's prepared to give a presentation there. You do have at your places the report and also the financial statement at your places. So Kayla, I'll turn it over to you to give the report. I'm sorry, Kayla, before you do that, Bonnie Bennett is here in the audience. I think the only time you see her, it's an annual appearance with Bonnie, and I make her do this to express my appreciation for her work throughout the year. She's a fantastic financial mind, and she keeps close tabs on every expenditure and transfer that, such that we don't have to spend time really deliberating issues that aren't of significance. So I just want to express my appreciation for Bonnie. So Kayla, if you're ready, I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Perfect, okay. So in front of you, you should have a report to the City Council. This is a report of matters that we are required to communicate to you as part of our audit process, just to keep the communication line open. There really wasn't anything unexpected this year. We did have some changes to the formatting of this report from prior years, just due to some new accounting standards that were released this year. And so the report looks slightly different, and there was one new disclosure, but nothing that was anything unexpected or out of the ordinary, essentially. And so the first part just talks about how you guys issue your opinion under the KMAD. This is a basis of accounting that is different from the U.S. GAAP. And so as a result of that, on page 2 of the report, you'll see that we show there's a departure from the auditor's standard opinion. This just tells us that because you guys do issue under KMAD, which is completely allowed by the KSA 7511.A, that we have to put in the opinion that there is an adverse opinion on the U.S. GAAP basis. But on the other side of that, once you get the audit report itself, we got an unmodified opinion, which is essentially a perfect audit report on the financials. So that tells us that everything that's in the financials is, we believe to be true based on the audit work that we've performed. We had no disagreements with management. Monty's been great to work with every year. We had nothing really that we needed to communicate to you as far as significant difficulties or significant issues that we ran into. There was a representation letter that management provided to us, which is attached to that form as well. I don't really need to go into the details of it. Essentially, that's just the matters that they represent to us in order for us to do our work. So then once we get into the audit report itself, the actual financials, those are also in front of you, so I don't really plan to go over them in much detail. The important part of this entire document is on the first couple of pages, it's that independent auditor's report. And so like I said, that's where we essentially tell you that we had no findings, no issues. The opinion is unmodified on the regulatory basis of accounting under KMAD. There was really not much else I wanted to go over. There was no single audit this year, which is something we've been keeping everyone aware of, that as federal funds do come in, that can require single audits in the future. So if you guys do spend over $750,000 in federal funds, then when we start looking at that, there was not one of those this year. So there really wasn't much else for me to report on, but I do want to open it up to any questions.
Okay. Anyone on the council have a question for our auditor? We have no questions.
That's
all
great.
Right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Kayla. No need for any action, just receive the report.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie.
You're welcome.
Item B, consider investment advisor service contract with Columbia Capital.
Yes, Council, I provided a memo in your packet briefly explaining this. Essentially, this would provide the city with professional expertise in investing the city's idle funds, so taxpayer money that is just sitting in the bank, really not making any investment earnings. Columbia Capital would assist the city in placing those in optimal positions to have investment earnings on those. So Jeff White is here. If you have any questions for him, but fairly straightforward agreement. I'll stand for any questions.
Okay. Questions from council on the investment advisory service contracts.
Might also mention, Columbia Capital does this for several other communities, Edgerton being one of them. And as far as I know, it's been a good thing for them.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to authorize you, the mayor, to sign an investment advisory agreement with Columbia Capital as presented at the meeting tonight.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ritter.
Yes.
Hardaway.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you all. Really appreciate it.
Item C, consider authorizing staff to submit 2023 CDBG project application.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. What you have before you is pretty much what we went over at the previous council meeting, projects that staff evaluated, and really one that rose to the top was the trail connection from 103rd Street down to 95th
First.
Street. 91st, okay,
91st.
I'm gonna get there. We were also, as Brandon pointed out last meeting, we were going to also submit several grant applications with the state of Kansas, so we really could have a pretty good bite at the apple this year as far as being able to expand our trail system. One thing also we're suggesting is doing a 2-year application, again, and applying for $200,000, and then of course we would forego an application in 2024 if we were awarded the entire amount. So with that, you are also required, as you just completed a public hearing, to receive public input before you make a decision. At this point, I will stand for any questions that you may have.
Questions from council? So I guess the one I'd have is like, so this is a 2-year grant. What year could it be built? Would it?
Well, they will award the funds in, typically it'll be about September of this year, so we'll have access to that amount of money pretty quickly.
So they give you the full they would give you the full 2-year allotment, or I guess it's still a reimbursement anyway, right?
Yes,
Don't get
that
it.
is correct. It's a reimbursement
So.
program. So we front the money, and then as the project's completed or as we submit invoices,
Right,
we
we're
reimburse.
reimbursed, so. Okay. Questions from council? I think it's a
I
good
like it.
project.
We talked about it
Yeah.
quite a bit. so
Yeah.
I think it's good. Should I make a motion? I'd like to make a motion then to direct staff to submit a grant application for this specific project that we are talking about for the trail from 103rd to 91st Street for the CDBG funding for 2023.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please, Brandon.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Hardaway.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Item D, discuss 5-year CIP update.
Yes, council, this is it's a continuation of our budget discussion. We decided earlier in the year that we will incorporate the CIP update into the budgeting process. We also have the intention to have a public engagement portion of the CIP update this year. So as we work through the budget on through with an end date sometime around the end of August or beginning of September, this is the next step in that process. What we'd like to do, we did last fall, we gave you a master list of all the laundry list of wish list items that we got from the council, from staff, from department heads. Gave you that whole list. We produced these project detail sheets that you have in your packet. I won't go over all those, but there was a master list, scope items on each project, and ask you to kind of prioritize those just from your own for your own priorities. The table in Exhibit B shows the results of the council's prioritization. I'm gonna need to go down here. Those project lists are pretty long, so bear with me. I'm gonna get there to Exhibit B.
It's the very last page in mine, so you probably drag all the way to the bottom.
Oh, I hope Exhibit B isn't the last page, because we have Exhibits C.
Oh,
and
B,
D.
I'm sorry, I thought you said D.
Oh, no, I'm looking for B. We'll get there. I'll try not to belabor things, but as you know.
Well, it's like 5 pages up from the bottom.
Yes,
Mike.
okay.
So go all the way to the bottom.
Okay, all right, yes. Thank you, Mayor, for that help.
You're welcome.
So Exhibit B, this is essentially the master list sorted in priority, aggregate priority ranking from the council. So the council priority score is on the right. You know, first to, you know, all the way down to whatever it was, 46. Within this list contains projects that that are already underway. Projects, so that we don't necessarily need to score them for inclusion, but they're already underway. We've taken some action to implement them. There are also projects that would relate to expansion of the water and sewer treatment facilities, which we are likely to roll into a separate discussion in reaction to economic development opportunities that are looming. Those discussions would be funded outside of the I mean, we'll put them in the CIP, but the funding sources don't really factor into what we're looking at here. So it was things like, you know, we need some well improvements. We'd like to rehab the clarifier at the water plant. Little items that were identified by water department staff that would be included in the overall project for that. So kind of removing those from our prioritization discussion for right now. And then the last one are categories of a list of sort of projects that that are probably better off prioritized in the context of asset management plans for the water system, for the sewer system, and also for the storm sewer systems. So I've kind of taken those out for now and set those aside. Those three categories are shown on the second page in Exhibit C. So it's the same sort of, the same project numbers, the scopes, the dollar amounts are the same. You can see the council priority score here is in the second to the last column, but those have kind of been removed for the discussion and placed into a separate category. So the rest of Exhibit C represents that priority listing, master listing of all the projects that remain. And you can see based on the funding sources that we have now more or less solidified. I want to talk a little bit about funding sources for the CIP because that's the other side of the ledger. Most significantly, Exhibit D is essentially the CIP that was approved last year with a few tweaks that I did outline in the staff memo. Most significantly, would be a $5 million, Jeff White, pay attention to this part.
I am.
A $5 million general obligation capital improvement bond to be issued in 2024. Also, Jeff White, pay attention to this part. We have already included a $1 million bond to partly fund the Ottawa Street construction project for this year. So we need to get cranking on the $1 million, unless we decide something different. The $5 million is significant because that essentially the debt service for that has been worked into to the debt service fund, and I talked about a little bit in detail at the budget discussion last week when I showed you that the debt service funds with the revenue that we have coming in, assuming the sales tax extension is renewed, that fund balance is very healthy, and we're looking at being able to comfortably reduce the mill levy for debt service significantly over the projection period and keep it there long term. So this 5 million is shown, really the payments for that wouldn't really be shown in the CIP, but the revenue is, and the mill levy, or the debt service is shown in the debt service fund, which gets funds from mill levy, sales tax, and transfers from the water department, from the sewer department funds to fund their part of the whole program. So, so significantly $5 million next year. With that, if you look at the 5-year expense projections, so this is the expense side of the capital improvements program. I know there's a lot of numbers on it, lots of projects on it. You can see essentially the projects that are shown here, and you can see the years that they're funded in, if there's a dollar amount that they're funded in. Some of these things are ongoing projects. You know, the sidewalk replacement project is an every year sort of thing. It's budgeted. CDBG's budgeted $100,000 each year. We may need to tweak that if we get $200,000 in one year and skip the next. But you can see that down here at the bottom line is the ending fund balance for any particular year. And you can see that generally the ending fund balance, once we issue $5 million in debt, is about $5.3 million. So what that says to me, to all of us, is that we have about $5.2 million worth of capacity in the next 5 years in our CIP to do projects. And so when we come back up to Exhibit C in this priority and this funding line, you can see where that funding line ends at $5.2 million down, project number 57. So the question then for tonight becomes, how comfortable are we with these projects being prioritized and in this priority number? And then the second question is, are there any other projects that we haven't included, haven't thought about yet? Do you have any questions about the scopes on any of these projects? And then I think once we generally have the group of projects set, then we can start talking about scheduling them out on the CIP and looking at cash flows and expenditures on a yearly basis and going with that. The other thing I did want to point out is that this whole thing, all this analysis assumes that these projects that are shown in here from the previous CIP, I've not removed any project that we've previously approved. So, if, for instance, I guess with one exception, there was, I said it in the staff report, there was a $350,000 allocation in 2026 that would include a plant capacity upgrade, I think for well improvements. I'm not sure that still shows up here. But that, oh, here it is, yeah, down on line, additional wells in the south well field, down on line 42, or project number 42. That was in there before. I took it out for the same reasons. We kind of grouped all those water sewer plant projects separately. So that one's been taken out. Everything else that was in before is still in. So the other side of this is, do we want to take anything out? I don't want to, I don't want to just presume that we made that decision a year ago and we're keeping on going with it, but we want to keep it in. The other and last project that I want to bring to your attention is this line 33. This is the placeholder figure that we've included in for a number of years, infrastructure in support of economic development opportunities. That one needs to stay in. End of story. So I'll turn it over. I'll stop there. Turn it over for questions and discussion and feedback.
And so is your goal to gather all your information tonight and then move forward, or
Certainly no pressure to be final here at the council.
Time to digest and respond?
Yeah, no, well, the goal is to get feedback, come back to you with something that's a little more final before we go and do the public input. And I guess that's kind of another policy question. Do we want to, how final do we want this before we go present it to the public and get feedback from the public? Is this close enough? I mean, do we want to kind of leave it like it is here and have these public meetings over the next couple months and then finalize it as we final the budget in September? That's probably the other.
Okay.
That's probably the other approach we could go toward.
Okay. Comments, questions?
If I ask a question, there's a lot here. There's a lot that we want to do. There's a lot that we need to do. You know, when you said, is there anything that we missed and want to add? Man, I hope we can work through what we already want to or need to accomplish first. But there's one I want to ask about. The trail that's associated with Arcadian Estates, that they do the grading, or right, they grade the trail in, and it's the city then paves it. Is that?
Yeah,
or
that's,
are-
they don't have any obligation to pave that.
Okay,
trail.
so they just do the grading, we pave it.
Yeah.
Where, is that a CIP project, and if so, is it in here somewhere and I just am not seeing it? Or
I
can we
don't
work that
know.
in somehow?
Yeah, it is not one of those, it's in the trail plan, the overall trail plan the park board's discussed and vetted down to those lists of trails that were up for the referendum and now we've tweaked and now we're doing some separate funds. I don't believe it's in here anywhere, Kevin. I don't think it is identified as a separate project. Brandon is the,
I don't recall.
I don't think it is. It's in the overall trail plan, but it's not really here.
Well, that'd be the one that I'd like to see follow through on, especially since, you know, they're pulling a bunch of building permits out there and that's only gonna aggravate that. And they've got it graded. Well, they will have it graded, I guess. I think,
Yeah.
you know, there's been a lot of erosion and activity and there'll be construction around that area. But that's one I would like to see us follow through on as people start moving in there.
If I may, as I recall, when we went through that whole approval process with Arcadian, we had talked about this using our sidewalk improvement program.
And see, that's why I wondered if it's even CIP or is it more maintenance? Is it kind of fall under the category of street maintenance, if you will, in terms of how the work will actually get done? Is it a city crew that's just gonna go out and pave it?
Well, maybe, maybe not. Brad was saying make use of this. Are you talking about the annual sidewalk program?
Correct, yeah, that's what
It's
we're
part-
talking about.
Grand. We could include it in that in any given year, but it hasn't been specifically identified yet. So it's probably, there's two ways to probably go about it.
A lot of folks that walk up and down that road. It's dark.
Okay. Anything else? Shirley?
So on Exhibit C, when you drew the funding line, that was just kind of taking the first 5.2 million. But some of the things on there, like Waverly Wire Tower replacement, we're already looking at doing that.
Yeah.
And that's down below the funding line.
Yep, it is.
And then trails, possible bond referendum, if we actually take that to referendum and passes, then that's actually not something that would be above that funding line, because that'd be taken care of by other funds. So there's things here that would be potentially funded by other stuff. So
Yeah.
that line may not be where that is, depending upon what's funded, what's not funded.
That's correct. Also, you know, the soccer field at Riverfest is already in the CIP as well, so I had those in the notes and I missed taking them out of Exhibit C, so.
So that kind of changes the picture a little bit.
Does, yes.
Okay, just, that
Yeah,
was the
that's a good
clarification I was looking
observation.
for was,
I need to check that. Yeah, that line could float a bit.
This is like a Mark STP committee meeting when the dollars get divvied up.
Yeah, those soccer fields are already in there.
yeah, and that's where, I mean, even looking at this, if some of them are already taken care of, then it's like, okay, that doesn't have to be in consideration with what we're looking at.
Yeah. Well, I might need to take back that comment about the soccer fields. This might be something additional. So, okay.
So that line is based on the projects in order and the funding that would be in 1 year and whatever's above it in that order. Is
Yeah,
how
it's
that line is.
5 years worth of funding, but yeah. Yeah.
Well, then, I guess I would like to hear what kind of feedback we get from the public comment part because of the way things could bounce around in priority order. I mean, that's our priority
Right.
order.
Right.
But, there may be, strong opinion about some of the ones that are close to the funding line or below the funding line or above the funding line, whatever it may be. So,
Well, and the park
I
board's
think,
talked about some of their priorities, which would change possible arrangement of some of the park stuff based on their recommendations. Sorry, didn't mean to.
no, that's fine. I was rambling a bit.
Mike, what year is the signal at Kill Creek scheduled for? I'm missing, is it?
It is
Next year?
not in the CIP right now, so.
The
it's-
temporary signal is, I mean, so what are you referring to the permanent one listed here as a project? Yeah. Is not, the temporary one will happen with the K-10 project.
Yeah, this was, I must have missed it the first time I saw it, that's why. Thank you. Congested area.
I didn't hear Jeff say no about the 5 million, so I think we're good there.
When are we holding the public, our public?
We don't have a schedule for
okay.
that yet. Wanted to kind of get through this first.
Okay.
And see where we were, but in general, June, July, August timeframe.
Okay.
In time to come back and finalize it.
I think it'd be good probably if it was post like June 20, when is that election?
Oh, yeah.
21st.
The 20.
I mean,
20.
post June 21st, so we know what our
Yeah,
picture is.
yeah.
You know,
That's a
I
good,
mean,
Spread the good word.
or as I said, that's the other thought, is like, well, we could hold it in advance of that, but we'll be doing public information.
I wouldn't want to conflate the two.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's like, so. But that way we'll better know what our funding picture is, so that our funding line may change substantially based on,
Good, yeah. Yeah.
Or our bonding
Or the mill
amount.
levy projections in the debt service fund
right.
are, yeah. They would have to change.
Okay? So can we review this and get back at the next meeting, or what do you want? Do you want? I mean, really, I can't think of
I'll have a
anything.
few notes. I need to kind of verify
Yeah.
some things here. I can certainly bring it back. I mean,
as far as additional projects.
Sorry, it really would be whether we need to add something
Right,
on.
exactly, that's what
Because,
I'm
I mean, once it's on there, it doesn't, I mean, the order,
Yeah.
we're not choosing a project
Right.
necessarily. I mean, those can be, I mean, we are, but we're not, they can be
Yeah.
moved around if something changes.
That's right.
But if there's something somebody wants to add on as a big project, then it needs to be figured out if it's important enough to be in the next 5-year funding or not.
So we're gonna talk about budget every meeting from now on.
Yeah.
Probably, and if there's something, maybe in the next meeting, if there's something we think is important to include in the picture we're gonna present and ask the council's input on, that's what I would
Right.
need to hear.
Yeah.
So, if nothing else, just mark it as a placeholder for the discussion on budget when that comes up at the next meeting. And we can then gear up to do the public involvement stuff in, July and August. And go from there. I just wanted everybody to have a clear picture,
Okay.
message about where, the general scope of where what we're doing, and then, categorizing these and sort of pulling these out from that discussion. Because all this stuff is in addition to. The other thing I would say about this green box here is, and I said in the staff report, I think we probably ought to fund with CIP dollars a true asset management studies and programs for the water, sewer, and wastewater. That would be maybe the on-call engineering to get, inventory, condition ratings, replacement schedules for everything. That's an undertaking in itself. That might be an add to projects added to the list, as an example. Okay, I think we have enough to go on.
This is a clerical comment, I guess, on your Exhibit A.
Uh-oh.
I think you copied and pasted the same title twice for the UMass, or either that or I'm really confused about what that is. So Exhibit A, so it's like the fourth page maybe of your whole PDF there. Yeah, you're too far.
The orange.
The orange, the UBAS projects there, up one more on the streets. No, I guess that had to be it. Oh, yeah, there.
This?
80, yeah, UBAS 83rd to 95th, 83rd to 95th, 83rd to 95th.
Okay. That's not right.
We don't need to do it three, and it's not
Looks like the descriptions are different, but.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's
All right.
yeah, it's 83rd to Penner and Laramie to the east city limits,
We'll fix that.
but just a fix.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, end of discussion on this tonight.
I did want to thank Brandon for helping me put, the project descriptions together. He did a lot of that.
And he also proofread, didn't he?
I'm the one that proofread, so that's my fault. So.
No, that was probably me.
I appreciate all the work that you do on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Item E, consider bids for Explorer Trail.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. We did these projects for repair work for Explorers Trail. As you recall, we did our street evaluation earlier this year and identified Explorers Trail as one of the roads that need to be overlaid, patched, repaired in many places. So we put out the bids. We received 4 bids, Barclay Asphalt from Liberty, Missouri is the low bidder. We have not worked with them previously, so I did ask for references, and one of them was the city of Basel. So I called their public works director and spoke with them briefly, and felt very positive about the work that Barclay had done. They're very good at notifying residents, working around the trash routes, and even when the school's in session, that they would work with the schools on busing and things like that. So feel confident that Barclay is a good contractor. Also, on Wednesday morning, Ron Creason and I met with representatives from Barclay. We walked the street, marked it, the areas we want patched, the areas the cracks need to be repaired, and they seem to be knowledgeable. They gave us all the information, quantities, so we are ready to go on approval that the council might give. So
Okay.
with that, I'll stand for any questions you might have.
Questions from council? I think you've talked about the obvious one was the spread and the bids and the concern, and I think as I looked at it, most of that was in the full depth patching, so that's why I wondered if they fully understood the amount and extent, and it sounds like.
Yeah, they did, and I'll just say that as an aside, we had, Little Joe's was the only one. They had a representative that attended the bid opening, and they commented that sometimes Barclay will sort of swoop in, and when they want to be in a market, they'll undercut
Buy a
to get
job.
in. So, but they also, the guy from Little Joe said that Barclay will do the job as well, so. That was also, I didn't put that in the staff report, it was just an interesting comment.
Any comments or a motion then to approve or accept the contract?
I'll make a motion, we accept the contract with Barclay Asphalt and a 5% contingency to complete the 2022 Explorers Trail street repairs in amount not to exceed $168,525.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Daniels.
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Carmichael.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Lane.
think he's muted. Danny, we didn't quite hear you. You're,
Yes, I'm sorry.
thank you.
Motion carries.
All right. Item F, consider bids for Valley Street repairs.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. This might be the first project on the CIP that you will actually complete because the emergency situation that's surrounding this one is made it a pretty difficult situation. I've included a couple of pictures. The picture on the road surface doesn't look as really as bad as it is, but it is sinking pretty severely. Also, curbs have rolled back. The drainage is it rolls, actually pushes out into the street on the surface. And also, as you can see, inside the pipe, it's rusted entire distance. And it is actually failing because there's no support from the pipe to hold up the road and the material above that. We did include this in the CIP. We thought we could make it maybe another year or two, but it's really started to fail significantly in the last 3 or 4 months. So we just went out and met with 3 contractors because we wanted to get this moving fairly quickly. Louie & Sons is actually doing the park project. And thought they could do the work and had them. Ron and I met individually with each contractor and asked them to submit a bid. We did give them some basic quantities of 250 feet of pipe and also to repair the asphalt, obviously, and clean out the ditch. And there's also an inlet that needs some concrete work done as well in the area. And they submitted bid pricing, and Duselier contract, they were concrete, actually was the low bidder. You may remember Duselier did the project on 95th in Lexington where it was flooding out and did an emergency repair for us there at that location. So we feel confident they'll be able to do this work. One thing that we'll have to do some coordinating on is Valley View is a pretty major connector to the Meadows subdivision. And in order to sort of get a pretty good price, we're going to have to close that road for probably a couple of days while they at least do that section. So we'll have to do some mailing and coordinate with the residents to make sure that and there are access points where they can get through. It's just not the most direct route that they can get to their subdivision. They're going to have to use 88th Street to get into that area. So actually we'll be cutting, it cuts across Golden Lane. So the project is primarily underneath Valley View Street. The whole pipe runs, or the majority of the pipe runs underneath, and it's right underneath the street. It actually goes underneath. You can see where we patched it. We did some repairs 2 years ago. And we thought that would get us by until we could get some money in the CIP to take care of this, but it just has really fallen apart fairly quickly in the last 3 or 4 months. So if you have any questions, we'll certainly do our best to answer them.
Questions? I think what it points out is the need for us to get that assessment of our storm sewer system completed so that we can start applying for some SMAC funds to.
Yeah, SMAC funds, they have funding for inspections. That's where we need to start.
And that project that goes on Golden, that only help that out, won't it? Take the water away from
Yeah, no, not really.
project or?
It really won't. This
They don't go down
this
that
pipe
far?
takes, there's a, kind of, the creek comes down here beside the J Mart, just west of the J Mart, goes under Lexington Avenue. It's a pretty well-defined stream pad. I'm not sure what the drainage area is. You know, it's better than 100 acres probably.
Yeah,
And then it goes into
goes up quite a bit north of Lexington.
Yeah.
Up on the contours.
Goes into a pipe, something like
You can
that.
see it covers a fair.
So it takes in, quite, anyway, the project you're talking about is here.
Yeah,
But
it doesn't go down that far.
not real, yeah, doesn't really.
And this replaces that whole length of pipe that you're showing there, all in red, or is it just
No,
a piece of it?
Just a piece of it, yeah.
No, actually, we're doing the whole thing.
We're doing
70, I thought it was less.
250 feet, it's, the entire length is rusted out.
Yeah.
So we've actually, Ron and I sent Cody Dale up there to walk it.
Did we get him back?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did come out the other end, so.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the bid with Ducelier, including a 5% contingency for an amount not to exceed $275,780 to complete repairs of the 72-inch drainage pipe at Valley View Street and Golden Lane.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Carmichael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Murdock.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Item G, consider update to fee resolution increasing water and sewer rates by 2%.
Yes, council, this is something that we've been able to avoid for 4 years running now. But as we discussed with the budget discussion last meeting, the consumer price index is up around the inflation index up around 8.2%. And looking at projections in both funds, it would be irresponsible not to at least have a token rate increase this year. As we look toward possibility of future rate increases in the next several, in the range of 2 to 4% per year with both funds. So this year, we did actually in our budget for 2023, we did include a 2% water rate or 2% rate increase in the water fund, a 1% increase in the sewer fund. I'm recommending a 2% increase in both funds at this time. That increase is reflected in the fee resolution as a red line on both. Essentially, it's just across the board on the base rate and on each of the tier. We're just increasing 2% across the board there. I'm sorry, this one isn't a red line, but these are the new rates there that reflect that. So recommend approving the fee resolution.
Questions? Comments? How long has it been since we've had a rating?
I think this is for the 4 years, the previous 4 years, since 18, 19, 20, and 21. Yeah, we haven't raised them since 2017.
It's pretty good, considering probably the 10 years prior to that. So.
Yeah.
Need a motion?
Yes, we do.
I'll make a motion that we approve the adjustments to the fee resolution.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ritter.
Yes.
Carmichael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Murdock.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item 4, executive session. We do not have one, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, advisory reports. City administrator.
Yeah, council, I do have a couple of things. The first one I want to talk about, I sent an email out yesterday about wanting to have a brief discussion on getting council's direction on the housing discussion. We've talked about it a few times here, the need to kind of get our arms around, wrap our heads around how to address, to the degree we can, the housing shortage. Most of our discussions here have centered really around workforce or attainable housing at the lower end of the price point, but the Chamber of Commerce and EDC have had discussions toward this end, and it's clear there's housing shortage all the way through all the price points, right? And with the job generators that are likely to occur in the relatively near future, we know that housing demand, not only in DeSoto, not only in Johnson County, but in the entire region, will only increase. And so to the degree we can, we want to be ready and prepared for that and assist that however we might want to. I would like some direction about what the council's expectation is about the schedule for that discussion. Where do we start? I mentioned in my email it probably does need to start with a land availability analysis. What land is is available, could be developed, is appropriate for development, in an area where we would want to have housing. So it's a land use discussion, it's a utility and infrastructure discussion, because if we can't sewer it, it's hard to get much density on sewers. And then probably it's a discussion about our codes, you know, the residential lot sizes and density requirements and things like that, all of which affect a builder's ability to bring a product to market at any price point. So I don't want to talk too much. I want to hear from the group to get your thoughts about how to proceed.
Okay, comments, questions from council?
First thought I had on it is, you know, isn't this the opportunity to engage the planning commission and have them take it up as a topic? You know, it is a planning item. It is related to comprehensive plan, and I think it would be a good, I don't know how engaged they are really in this whole discussion of community direction, and particularly when we're talking about land, just land area, just getting a map out, starting to draw around areas that could be residential, and then thinking through, you know, compatible uses, needs, assessment, that kind of thing. I feel like Planning Commission ought to be involved in some way, and if not, a report that they digest and bring back to us for then us to look at the applicability of. That's just my input.
Do you believe they would have the time to do so?
I'm sorry?
Oh, I asked him if he thought the planning commission would have the time to do such a project.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the comp plan needs to be reviewed annually by statute, so, yeah, I don't want to commit them to their free time, but can agree our agendas, we have planning commission meetings go till midnight.
You know, similarly, when you're talking about, you know, things like applicability of codes and how our codes may be affecting developability and price point and that kind of thing, again, that's going to run through planning commission.
Right.
And, you know, I can't really assess the skill set, and certainly it's a staff assistance kind of thing, and I don't know where they are, but I know in the past, planning commission took on a lot of studies, you know, and made recommendations. And this just feels like one that I think they ought to be plugged into and contributing towards.
Lori, any comments?
Nothing really different than what Mike and Kevin had said. I mean, I do think that we need to figure out what's available. You know, is it feasible to develop? Can we get utilities to it? And I agree with Kevin that, you know, planning commission should be a part of it. And whether it's too big of a project or too much for them at one time, then, you know, at least some kind of joint committee where they're heavily represented on that.
Okay. Rob, thoughts?
As long as I've been on council, we've been talking about housing and the fact that the housing needs were going to be there, that we were running out of space to do it. So bottom line, we're behind the ball. And I mean, it's been something we say we need to talk about, but with Flint and with what's going to be coming in with workforce on the Flint projects, if that comes to fruition to the level that they have, we need to be talking about where there's infrastructure to be able to put it, whether that's over on 103rd, which we've already started changing to residential by 95th, between Sunflower and Edgerton, whether that's getting and going back now that Flint and some of those projects are paying for infrastructure and sewer and water over in the southwest corridor to where we don't have to pay it as much, taking infrastructure back to 95th Street and getting 95th Street to where 95th and Kill Creek can be in some of that development area. Planning Commission does need to be involved, but we're behind on this. And I know some developers have been getting turned away that are interested in it. And so before we're turning away people that are interested in developing in our community, we probably should have discussion on feasibility and where we actually can put the housing that we're going to need, because we don't want to send all of our labor force or housing for Flint or the others to Eudora or Tongi we want to be able to house some of them here locally as well.
Done? Kevin?
I agree with him quite a bit. I think it's been brought up that there was some possible land available in some areas that we're driving our infrastructure towards. And, we should probably take advantage of it if we have the opportunity.
Danny, any comments?
I agree with Kevin there, and I really think we need to get the planning commission involved and get them started on that as soon as we can.
All right.
Yeah. Well, so toward that end, the planning commission, we did have, their meeting next Tuesday, and we do have on the agenda, how do we frame that? Just a look at land use patterns and infrastructure?
Yeah, we're mostly gonna focus clearly on Sunflower, southwest growth area, but we certainly can engage them at this next meeting and start picking their brain about how to address housing.
Yeah, with this feedback, we can start that.
Where they might want to go with it.
Yeah. Yep.
Mayor, I have one more comment.
Sure.
We used Marty quite a long time ago on a housing study. And, the possibilities with the EDC and the relationship with another company, they may be able to raise or get those funds to have another study done by him. That might help the planning commission along.
Could, yeah. I think what I see a lot of what it is, it's basically looking at our topography, right? Real essentially.
Sewers.
Sewers, road, we can do roads. Roads are a whole lot easier to solve than sewers. But sewers, that is the core issue to residential development. Where can we sewer? So to Rob's point, what can we do to leverage the sewer investment that is being generated by the industrial development, light industrial development that's going on? And does that open any opportunities if we look hard at where that infrastructure is being placed, and maybe by probably investing some of our own money with that to replace or to better position some of that, perhaps the large lift station in an area that might open up ground to a residential type development, if it's appropriate to develop at that location in that, if it makes sense to do it there. That's.
Well, that's why I said that. I thought maybe the study might offer that, a mixed development in that area with high density and lower less might be something to our advantage, but that was the only reason I made the comment.
Yeah, because our Rocky terrain can change the cost of sewering real quick, as the cottages found out.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's any question whether we need it, and I think even our last study that we had him not long ago, would say that, what we need and what kind of housing we need. I don't think that we probably are really turning people away. I don't even know that, we've been talking about it, but it's a hard thing to do, mainly because, there's only so much land. And now that there is this movement in some industrial development to the west, the idea going to the west with housing if feasible, but that's all going to rely is it financially going to be feasible for them to put the housing that we need in those areas that the pricing of land maybe outdo what we can even do. So there's a lot of parts that come into it, and it's kind of unfortunate that we're so locked in on land. You look at this Sunflower area, there's land, but it's not going to be all in housing because housing won't pay for it, and that's the big thing that's going to tie us all up. So in that way, Kevin, studies such as that maybe are going to be necessary at some point to be able to evaluate the land, how much it would cost, what's it going to cost for infrastructure, but just you know, typically as we see it, what's coming into DeSoto are higher level homes because, you know, that's what it takes to buy the land and to put everything in that goes with it, so.
Yeah, a lot of the other constraint in in the southwest area is just land that isn't gonna redevelop. It's a large lot, rural residential with a house sitting on it.
Right.
That's gonna sell together. You know, I don't see a lot of those areas where somebody's gonna buy that tract and demo the house and do a subdivision on it. You know, I think it's gonna perpetuate in its form. So, and a lot of the history of the comp plan is a lot of residential aspirations were on the north side of K-10. And, you know, how can the lift station be leveraged in a way that maybe you can make some of that sewerable? But I don't even know that we know what of that is likely to turn over in a way that can become subdivided.
Right, yeah, there is a big part of this equation, in addition to sewers, is ownership.
Yeah,
Ownership of, and aggregation
Yeah.
of large parcels that would make a large development possible.
And that's why we talk about this for years, because
Right.
it's tied up in ownership issues.
But while there's a large portion of large lot lands along 95th, there's a lot of room and land that will be sewered and capable of being a transition area of multifamily along 103rd between Edgerton and Sunflower that has the capability of transitioning to the large lots, but providing housing and providing the amenities that have a park across the street that will be accessible to sewer as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
And there's been a lot of interest there too.
I think that's
Yeah,
just what I just said. Maybe that's
The
what-
future land use designations that we have, and let's just call it Southwest Gross Area, you kind of everything south and west of K-10 Lexington, are pretty broad brush strokes. You know, and to kind of get a little more granular with that, where we can see, you know, there's these transitions that can occur in these areas that will be sewered soon. That's I think that's low hanging fruit, honestly, because the land is there, the utilities will be there, it's available.
The rub will become the price point then.
Yeah.
Because it will be
Of the land.
attractive
Yeah.
for higher value uses.
Yeah, and the decision to
And-
make is highest and best.
Yeah.
Right? It gets complicated when you start talking about it, doesn't it? Well, we'll start with the discussion with the planning commission Tuesday. And solidify a plan with broad brush topics and maybe kind of a schedule to lay out to get everybody an understanding of expectations about timing.
Timing and scope, right? I mean,
Timing and scope.
what we want them to
Yep.
do and when we need it done by.
Yes. Okay. Well, thanks for that discussion. I'm sorry to have such a long item during the report. The other item that I had is something that came up this week. We have a repair to do at the sewer treatment plant on one of the blowers, has a variable frequency drive that went out. To replace it would be $10,000 or $11,000. We have a proposal from O.J. Dupree who's done work on electric control work at the plant for us for years and years to rebuild the one that went out. The proposal is $6,240, and it'll have a 1-year warranty on that. It's over my spending limit, so I'd ask for your approval to make that expenditure to O.J. Dupree.
For how much?
$6,240.
$6,240.
I'll make a motion to allow Mike to have the expenditure to, is it Dupree?
Yes.
For $6,240?
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay,
Okay, council, thank you. That's all from me.
all right, thank you. City Attorney,
Nothing for me.
thank you. City Clerk,
Just two quick things. We have our sales tax open house on Monday at 6 p.m. And then this this afternoon I emailed you our kind of priority tracking list coming back from the council retreat in November. If you just kind of take a peek at that and shoot me back any suggestions or recommendations of shifting things forward or moving things up. It was quite a while ago and things have changed dramatically in DeSoto since we met. So
Okay.
looking for some feedback on that via email over the next week or so.
Well, my first glance was it looked pretty organized. It looked like you had things covered, and it's a nice looking spreadsheet, Brandon.
Yeah, so I have to give Whitney a little credit. She helped me get the colors.
Okay.
And the DeSoto scheme. I had them all over the place.
Okay.
So she helped me with that. That was really helpful.
That was my first observation too.
My second is, I don't know how many of us are planning to come to the open house on Monday. Is there any issue if we have more than 3 council members at that?
Just as long as you don't talk among yourselves.
Well, I guess I'm concerned if we were asked questions and
Oh, yeah.
and you know, and we went to the address more than 1 or 2 people, I guess.
Yeah.
Would there be a need to call it as a potential special meeting or notice it as such or not? I guess first would be to take a poll, who's planning to come?
And this is what, Monday at 6?
Yeah.
Yes, Monday at 6. Yeah.
No, Lori's no?
I can if I am
No,
asked.
I just was curious, if there was 3 of us or 2 or more that were planning to come, I was a little concerned that,
I probably will not.
okay.
Maybe.
Okay, maybe I'm just still, I think we'll be good.
Okay.
I'll put that worry to rest right now.
Yep.
Thank you, Brandon. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right, sorry, I skipped you.
Oh, didn't have anything to
Brad?
Mayor, thank you.
All right. Council comments. Danny, you're online. We're gonna start with you tonight.
Oh, okay, Mayor, sorry I can't be there. I've had a little injury in my back, so, gonna be laid up for a little bit. You know, our last council meeting, I brought up the funding for the public art fund. And, I did talk to them. I know somebody asked me about the amount, and I did talk to them, and they proposed to start with a budget of $25,000. So, that was that bit of information, so we can look at it coming up. And also, I want to thank Mike and the crew. We had quite a bit of water out here and damage from the storm a couple of nights ago, and it scattered debris across Kill Creek, Cedar Creek, I'm sorry. And the crew came out, and before I got a couple of calls, but before we could even call anybody, the street crew was out there and had all the debris from the water runoff and the rocks and the trees and everything taken care of. So they went above and beyond, and they were there before they were even needed. So that's all I have tonight, Mayor. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Danny. Kevin, anything for the group tonight?
Yeah, I have one question. Oh, I have several things. But, Brad, was you able to find out anything about the SWIP stuff out at Arcadian, whether they were gonna fix the fence that's all laying down, or if they've been turning in the reports?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll come up here. Yes, as you know, well, I did forward our email that sent to the developer in Arcadia. They also have been cited by Walter, Codes Enforcement Officer, for their erosion control issues. We just finally had it with them. And we've given them, our standard is to give them 2 weeks to make those repairs. I did get a call from the developer, and Walter got one as well. It went as well as it could, I guess, but they have made a few improvements, but they still have not done everything that they need to. He also said he's out of the country until the 21st, and I said, well, you know, you got till the 23rd. He was cited on the 9th, so he's got till the 23rd to make those corrections, and at that point, we were going to not issue any building permits or do any inspections on any of the properties or homes for any of the builders out there. So that's sort of our biggest hammer we have at this point. I also did contact the state, and apparently their squid was expired. And I've called the state a couple times to say, well, what happened? Because they're usually open until somebody closes it. And I've not heard anything back, so I need to get follow up again.
Thank you for the update. I know you and I spoke this morning. Then, I guess this, what can we do to, as a group, to possibly give Mike, an ability to spend up to $10,000 without having to come ask us for $1,000?
Mike, what's your $5,000?
It's 5,000, yeah.
On the limit?
It's in our purchasing policy, so it'd be a tweak to that. If you want, we can bring that back at the next meeting.
I'd like to see it, just a 10.
Yeah, thank you. That would help. I wouldn't.
$99.99.
I had one last thing.
Sure.
If I can just follow up on that, my concern is things like this that arise, we could end up in 3 weeks between meetings and they have a piece of equipment fail, or we have a piece of equipment fail that needs addressed, in fairly short order. Are we gonna have to call a special council meeting to approve a piece of equipment that's gotta be replaced, that's failed? So I agree on the limit, but I'm really concerned about fault tolerance on ability to act on something that needs to be acted on quickly.
I think there isn't a provision for emergencies in that, isn't there?
I couldn't swear there's a provision, but the past practice has been when that's occurred, and I don't know that I've maybe only done it once or twice, but I'll notify the council by email, hey, I gotta spend $12,000 on this, it's an emergency, sorry, if you have any problems, let me know.
Yeah, because you did that on the 95th and Lexington
That's right.
area.
That's when it
that
happened.
whole thing
Yeah,
where
yeah.
you did that.
Yeah, and if I hear back from a few councilmen, members, then we call a special meeting, but
Yeah.
it's just been a practice, I don't think it's codified in the policy.
Well,
Okay.
if there needs to be language in there for emergencies, I don't know that. The last thing I have is, does anybody else think that the mowing hasn't been going too good?
Yeah, that was on my list.
Yeah.
But I did notice they did mow today.
Yeah, so they did mow today. Yeah, so you'll remember it's a new mowing contractor. We haven't worked with them before, but they do work for other cities, and they came with good recommendations, and they were not cheap. Are not cheap. So my understanding of what happened was the project manager involved abruptly quit the company without notice. And so our calls, have you heard this, Brad?
No, this is news to me.
Our calls were going unanswered. That was Monday and Tuesday of this week. We finally called the president of the company. He was apologetic, talked with Ron, got right out here today. But it did spring a discussion we're gonna have in context of the budget about, can't we just hire a few people and rent some equipment and do this mowing ourselves? We're paying $180 grand a year. Okay, it looks like on the napkin sketch we used, on the back of the envelope, it looks like we might be able to do this ourselves, hire 2 or 3 people year round, not just seasonal. So we have them to do other stuff from October through April and do it cheaper. And then it's our standards, not somebody else. So
When I worked for Leewood, we mowed all the right of ways, all the parks.
yeah, it's
I don't
done.
see why that wouldn't follow.
Yeah. It does bring.
But wasn't their bid quite a bit lower than the other?
It was, yeah, but quite a bit higher than what we've been used to.
Right. Yeah. It just looked pretty sad, so thank you.
It did, I agree, yeah.
I don't believe I have any other
All right,
comments.
thank you, Kevin. Rob?
Mike, this, a while back, after one of the league events, I gave you water, card for the guy that does water towers.
Oh, yeah.
Mentioned the inspection and
Yep.
talking about maybe painting to where the mold's not,
Yeah.
that type thing. Just following up on that. If
We do have, I gave that to Marshall, and I'm not
Okay.
sure if it's that company or another company. He did get a bid to inspect all the towers, to clean the mold and apply some protectant that will stop with that. He's waiting to get a couple more bids, and we're gonna bring that. I think the bid he got was over 20 grand. So we need a couple more.
yeah, because I know the company that built that was the one I gave you, and they said basically they did an inspection on that one.
Yeah,
So-
McGuire, wasn't it?
What's that?
Was it McGuire?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would have been nice to have something on the revenue neutral rate proactively, considering it came back up in discussions, and it would have been nice for people to point to city resources explaining it. So if we can still get that done now that it's been a couple months, it would be nice for our residents to be able to point to city resources to explain it.
I can touch on that a little bit. On the revenue neutral, there's a committee put together of Johnson County communities, and they're still kind of working through how to communicate that to the public.
That's fine, but our public's still wanting answers back then and now.
Yeah.
And it keeps coming up where having answers for them from our perspective proactively, and then if we need to tweak it when the group gets their stuff together, it's still coming up from our residents and it's a concern.
Okay. We could certainly put some together. That was our idea, was that we wanted to make sure everyone had the same message so that Lenexa wasn't saying something, DeSoto says something different. But we could certainly put something together.
Yeah, but we have a sales tax referendum coming up where taxes are taxes to some of the people, and being able to have it explained is going to be able to help our sales tax referendum issues too.
Okay.
So, any updates on planning commission appointments, changes?
No.
Okay. That's it.
Lori?
I have nothing, thank you.
I have nothing else.
All right. Nothing from me tonight as well, so
Like a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? We're adjourned.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Session.